welcome to the Dara Doma. Fuck, I can't do it. Anyway.
DEGARUTA bonus because we didn't get the episode out in time before. I thought we'd do a little extra here. I read a book called Last and First Idol, and it did not go where I thought it was going to go. It's actually 3 short stories in one book, and based on the cover art, you cannot judge what the story is based on that cover. Like, it is very deceptive.
Absolutely deceptive.
Basically, did you ever watch Lex?
Yes, I did remember watching a couple episodes of Lex. That was that there's a... Okay, so there's... For people that don't understand the show, there's a goofy space captain who really shouldn't be a fucking space captain, surrounded by a bunch of people that really shouldn't be on a spaceship, on a fucking spacecraft that is capable of destroying everything.
And it's alive.
It's absolutely alive, and it's one of the most terrifying things to ever be created.
And it eats planets.
And the only way they can get food is by eating planets. So, what does this have to do with this book?
High Concept Sci-Fi. Let's start with our first story, which is First and Last Idol.
All right.
We have this girl named Mika, who is growing up in Japan, and her parents can't get her to shut up most of the time. She's like a very noisy, very upset child. And they try everything. They try, toys, model kits, kites, pets, and nothing will get her to settle down. And she's very upset all the time. They accidentally turn on an idol show, and she quiets down instantly. So basically, because they're not great parents, they basically just buy idol program tapes, run them through their VCR until the magnetic tape wears out, send her to idol concerts, take her to handshake events, and eventually this starts to weigh on the family, even especially after her little sister is born. They have to work longer hours in order to afford all this fucking idol shit that they're doing for her, just to keep her entertained. Yeah.
Now,
here's a penny, here's a light socket, go play.
Now, here's a little odd fact. You can run down a fucking VCR tape after 10,000 watches. 10,000 is the expected life expectancy of the VCR tape back in the day.
Right. So eventually they move on to DVDs. Eventually it gets to the point where, because of all the tension of the long hours, Mika's parents get divorced. And they do this weird Japanese thing where they each take a kid. And basically this fucks her up. She doesn't go out because, one, she feels partly responsible. She doesn't go to school for like a year. And then all of a sudden, a school wins, like a bunch of girls at the school like do some local idol competitions and make this school famous. So, which is basically just Love Live. And Love Live happens at the school, so she studies really hard, catches up to her class, and passes the entrance exam to start going to the school. Now there's idol clubs all over the school.
All right.
And she's not very good at it, but she's trying her best because she wants to be the greatest idol in the universe.
AKA the first and last idol.
Right. It gets better. She meets this really quiet girl who who took ballet and could always nail those dance routines and choreography with no problem, but she never seemed really into it. They form an unlikely friendship and they actually become best friends because she's not interested in idols per se. But she's good at the stuff. But the fact that Mika cares so much about it, to show up to school early, to practice hard, get an extra practice on the routines she's not good at, that she's like, I will become your producer and I will make you great. And her club forms an idol group, or a local idol group, and they become like the best group in school. But the book's not about that. It's Mika graduates, and she's and her best friend, Maureen, go their separate ways. Mallory's going to medical school because her family owns a bunch of hospitals, and because that's another trope of Japanese media is the parents owning a number of hospitals, so you have to be a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she decides she's going to go be an idol full time. She moves to Tokyo, and she eventually gets an audition with this agency. But the rub is that she has to pay for her own lessons until she can start booking work. Because she's got to be taught how to sing, she's got to be taught how to dance, she's got to be taught all this, so she can be up to snuff. They can start booking her gigs. Well, after 6 months of that, and she's in the hole for these lessons, the office that she belonged to goes bankrupt.
Oh.
And she's still on the hook for this debt.
Oh no.
And she's like, Malrin, her parents are rich. Maybe I could ask her for help. No, I can't do that. That would be wrong. And basically, she's watching her dream crumble around her. And her best friend shows up completely out of the blue. Oh my God, Mika, I heard what happened. I'm here to help. But then there's another knock at the door. It's Mika's younger sister, who she hasn't seen since their parents got divorced, and saying, okay, you need to give this idolship up because it destroyed her family, made her parents get divorced. Your job is to go to university, get a well-paying job, get married, and breed. And contribute to society. Mm-hmm. You need to give this idol shit up and grow up. And it's a very, tense situation. You're in that place where your dream is crumbling around you, and you've got the two extremes of don't give up on your dreams, I'm going to help you, and you need to adult now, give up your dreams. And it's literally too much, so she makes them both leave, and then she goes and does a 7-story swan dive off her balcony.
Wow!
Yeah! So Mallorin orders the ambulance that shows up because she's pronounced dead, and to take her to the hospital. One of the hospitals owned by her parents, which isn't too much of a stretch since it was the closest one ready to take her anyway. Mm-hmm. And her parents were very doting and basically give her anything she wants. As a result, she's given a large container filled with liquid nitrogen, and you can already see where we're going here. She gets some alone time with the body. She removes Mika's brain and spinal column and eyes and places it in this canister until the technology exists that she can be revived. We can rebuild her, but we need the technology.
We don't have the technology. So
we don't have the technology.
We're going to make it someone else's problem in the future.
It's great. And so they go to Mika's funeral, and she's actually getting beaten on by little sister, and I think her mom, because she has the wrong attitude for being at a funeral. It's like, it's gonna be okay, I'm gonna bring her back. It's like, yeah, you fucked with her corpse, you piece of shit, you wicked devil, you... But then something weird happens. She goes to medical school. She's doing her very best to develop this technology. All of a sudden, the sun starts going wonky, and a massive solar flare hits the Earth. It burns away the ozone layer. It completely fucks up our magnetosphere so that cosmic rays aren't coming in and creating clouds. The ice caps all melt. Most people get some degree of cancer. EMPs fry satellites and make planes fall out of the sky. And basically now the Earth is in danger of being cooked alive unless something is done about this. Now, this is where your high concept sci-fi starts. Oh boy. They decide that to genetically engineer a race of jellyfish that can float in the air, filled with spiders that could create this webbing that's meshed with carbon nanotubes.
Okay.
And tie asteroids to the Earth to create a shield to block out some of that sun. Well, and they absorb the UV radiation and the solar energy, because it turns out the solar flare never fucking stopped. It's still going on. They're still being cooked right now. Well, the spiders and the jellyfish start breeding too fast, and because they have no natural predators, begin descending upon the earth and attacking people, and there's no way to stop them because you can only really go out at night. And as a result, the entire equator is just taken over by spiders, and the spiders range in size from a few centimeters to a meter in length. And the jellyfish attack people too.
Yeah. How did we get from a girl that whose interests ruined her family's marriage to spiders have taken over the fucking Earth's equator?
Yes. So anyway, it has been 30 years since this happened. Maurin is more machine now than man. Some rusty pipes coming in, tubes coming out of her body, leaking various nasty liquids. Her legs are a couple of wheels that don't work right. Her skull is actually caved in on one of the temples, and she's excited because I did it. Mika is alive again. And what we find out that Mika is basically a brain with eye socket, with eyeballs, who can somehow talk. I think it's telepathically. And she is a loose collection of organs that have been genetically remodified to do various things. Technically, she can float in the air. She has these barbed wires that can actually come out of her body. And she can take over the nervous systems of other creatures. She can self-modify herself. She uses a gas bladder to levitate, and she shoots digestive fluids over things to eat it and absorb nutrients from it.
What?
And Maurin says, now that you're alive, I can help you fulfill your dream of becoming the greatest idol ever. And Mika is like, I don't know, I look like a fucking modern art sculpture failure, but then it turns out that part of her brain was damaged in cold storage. So the part that was damaged, Maurin replaced with a piece of her own brain. And as a result, her love and devotion for her friend has created Mika having a strong love and devotion for herself. So, yeah, I could do this. I could still be the greatest idol in the universe. So, they go out looking for food because spiders now run most of Tokyo, and Maurin has this fucking tank that's like covered in guns and laser cannons, and they're after these group of people that are still fighting for Akihabara, called the Vigilantes. And what? They like have these springs like implanted in their bodies so that when they shoot arrows into the spider nests, they can actually like slingshot around like it's hook shot. And so they find a couple of people and brutally murder them, and then Mika eats them by shooting them with digestive enzymes and then absorbing their nutrients. Meanwhile, Maurin is shoving them into a meat grinder, which is inside of her autonomous tank that she's dragging around.
What?
These are idol activities. This is practice that she's going to need for when she becomes an idol.
Okay.
So anyway, the Vigilantes have had a long-standing war with Maurin because she's they're cannibals, and now humans are basically the only main supply of food for each other. But because she's out at night, because she was so excited to have her friend back, the Vigilantes attack her, and basically they brutally murder her. They chuck a Molotov cocktail inside her gut after opening her stomach up, because most of her organs are gone, having been replaced by machines. Because every time she found good organs from all the dead people that she was collecting, she saved those because she needed those for Mika. And basically, they roasted her alive and began eating her. And come to find out that one of the Vigilantes, who's got like covered in tumors from the fucking skin cancer from all the UV radiation, is actually Mika's sister. And she gets like a machine gun round sent through her face, Because as Mallory is dying, she's opening up, using the remote control on her tank to just kill these people. And so Mika describes herself as a second generation idol. The first generation was just, cute girl with pigtails who could sing and dance.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the second generation. Times have changed. Trends have changed. You've got to keep moving forward. You can't live in the past. All these people who are fighting for Akihabara, they're living in the past. So she's got to show them, how great it is being a second generation idol. But she can't just stop there. She has to become a third generation idol. So, she eats some of the spiders and actually takes their spinnerets into her body so that now she can shoot the fucking webs. And then she basically takes all the body parts of the people that were dying there and rolls herself up into a fucking Katamari of death. With each hand holding either machetes or fucking AK-47s. And then plans to go up to the Vigilantes base, which they've built using the jellyfish. Because the older the jellyfish get, the more the jellyfish don't care about shit anymore. But the spiders live up there too, so they have to deal with some of the spiders. So she floats up there and basically fucking murders everybody. And moves into their fucking base after, taking all the best organs for herself and building herself into a fourth generation idol. Because now she can float, and now she can fly, because she's taken over the jellyfish, but she doesn't have any fans. An idol needs fans.
You need at least that in order to become an idol.
And so, she starts scouring the earth, trying to find people that will be fans. And she does this for about 100 years and finds out that all the humans are basically gone. Some of the jellyfish are, actively attacking the earth, looking for anything that moves. So at one point, she decides that if I can't find a fan, I'll make a fan. She basically wires a bunch of the jellyfish together to make a fucking neural network, and turns and it covers the entire fucking world as a single sentient network that then sees her as a threat, and then the solar flare stops, finally, and all the jellyfish fucking die because they were feeding off of the sun. So she was feeding off the sun too, because now she's integrated all that fucking jellyfish and spider DNA into herself. And she decides to bury herself and leave her eyes stalked up, just to see when new life comes around. 200 million years later, sea anemones, crustaceans, and other things are now emerging from the sea and walking on land. And so she decides that, okay, they're on land. In order for an idol to be a fan, they have to have consciousness. So she basically decides that she's going to kill all of the anemones that don't show any form of consciousness or intelligence in order to encourage the ones that do to breed, but then realizes that's not going to work and that's fucking stupid. Then the solar flare starts up again and basically kills all of them. All that shit.
Except her, obviously.
Except for her, because she's fine. Well, then she notices, I forget to mention this, but the solar flares, they discovered that all of these massive flares were happening to all the stars roughly around the same time. Every observable star was having these massive, constant solar flares, and nobody knew why.
Oh, that sounds like a bad thing.
All of a sudden, stars started going out, Mika noticed, using her telescopic vision that she developed for herself so that she could see into space. So,
because of course.
So she decides that since there's no chance of finding life here on Earth, then to be her fan, she's gonna go into space. So basically, she at this point she's like a 17 millionth generation idol.
Because of course.
Because she's gone through all these fucking iterations. She uses the planet's rotation to generate energy to create and store antimatter, and basically turns herself into a living starship. She then fucks off into space. Oh yeah, after that, the fucking Reapers show up and destroy the solar system. A a race of sentient nanomachines just show up and destroy everything in the system in order to build a Dyson sphere around the sun, because they were built by a race to stop the solar flares, but they forgot to explain to them how they should do it or when they should stop. So after this machine race wiped out the race that built them, they just started going from star to star, building Dyson spheres around them. And that's why the stars are going out.
Oh. Well, that makes sense, I guess.
She starts going from planet to planet, occasionally wiping them out and taking really good parts. Eventually, she comes to a conclusion that it's not that consciousness is what's required to appreciate an idol. It's that an idol is what makes consciousness, because, you know, people empathize with the model, with the idol. They go to the concert and they see the idol perform, and they feel these feelings that the idol wants them to feel, and they feel like they could be an idol too, and basically decides that to change her entire approach. She's going to try and get fans, so she makes herself look like various races that she encounters. She trades and talks with them. She starts actually getting fans. Other races make war against her, so she wipes them out.
Because, of course, I mean...
And basically this continues. It's like she's wiped out like tens of thousands of worlds and races, and she's actually approaching the heat death of the universe. But she's really upset because there are no fans. So basically she decides to jumpstart the universe. She creates two... because she's massive and powerful now from all the fucking shit she's taken... She creates two fucking black holes, smashes them together to create a singularity, and basically creates a multiverse. Because she keeps doing this several times, and comes to find out that in the space between the worlds, time doesn't exist the same way. Forward, backward, it's all kind of the same thing. And she uses a data burst to basically, when she creates the universe, her personality and will exists as the background radiation of the world, so that when computers start getting built, she can integrate into those systems undetected, and basically comes to find out that the super flares were actually, because she is now technically the will of the universe, trying to exert this control all the way to the past. The super flares were actually caused as a byproduct of her doing this. And that even her meeting her best friend was basically the result of her consciousness accidentally making her friend's alarm clock go off late or go off early so that she would show up and catch her while she's at school early practicing. And then tries to tie the entire thing that there was actually a cutoff point in the multiverse where they could not go any further. And the best that they could manage was to write a book about a girl named Mika who wanted to be an idol. And then a bunch of bad things happened. And basically explained that by you picking up the book and you reading it, you are now the continuance of her will. You are the proof that she was alive. And that she is, in fact, the greatest idol in the universe. She was the last idol, and she is the first idol. That went some fucking places.
Yeah. Yeah. It fucking dove off cliffs like several fucking times there. Holy shit.
Imagine me reading this and like, what the fuck? 200 million years? Based on the cover art, I thought this, like, she gets in an accident and they rebuild her. She wakes up in the future. And she takes classic idol sensibilities and moe culture and translates it to a future that is forgotten and brings peace and love to the galaxy. That's what I thought this was.
No. I guess fucking... I'm fucking flabbergasted at this. Holy shit.
Let me see if I can pull up one of the bookmarks I had. The bookmark I had. I think it was idol activities. Come on. Come on, you bastard. Let's see here. The arrival of the second generation idol tipped the balance of this delicate piece. Having gone all out to bring Mika back to back, the culmination of all her dreams had left Maureen's guard down. When she had once seemed invincible, she now had a clear weakness. The vigilantes did not let that go unnoticed. Unaware of this, the two merrily continued their idol activities. Today, they had found an unusually large den of humans and were looking forward to the fresh meat. Maureen, one's getting away! Maureen was shoving the group of humans into her trailer, grinding them into mincemeat. One slipped away, a child. She's our future, my daughter. I'm begging you, spare her life, said one human, stepping forward with arms upraised, presumably her parent. She was so scared tears and snot were pouring down like waterfalls. Oh, well, if it's a kid, I suppose we could spare her. What? Really? Nope. With that harsh warning, bullets pierced both child and parent. Wow, Maureen, you're so merciless. Oh, well, maybe I'm just excited to be with you, Mika-chan. Maureen gathered the humans together with her manipulators, inserting pipes into their flesh and draining the fluid. The second generation idol perched on the mound of flesh, spreading her intestines and spraying digestive fluid, then slurping up the dissolved meat. This might seem cruel, but the world of an idol was a harsh one, and survival of the fittest was an inescapable rule.
Okay, so she's approached by a parent and her child, asking her to spare the child, and she's like, "Yeah, I'll spare him." And he's like, "What, really? No," and she just fucking murks them both and eats them.
Yeah.
Oh.
And like I said, this is just the first story.
That's just the first. Oh.
The second story, Evolution Girls. I'm not going to go into as much detail on this one. Because like I said, there's 3 stories, and I want to recommend this book because I think there needs to be more high concept sci-fi, but at the same time, I don't know how to recommend this book because that's not everyone's cup of tea.
No, holy shit. I almost want to because it's giving me a fucking headache trying to wrap my shit around it. Like, I can feel it building it in the back left side of my head.
Evolution Girls is basically about a mobile game, a mobile gacha game with waifus that's basically a combination of like Fate Go, Girls Frontline, Kimono Friends, and Love Live.
Okay.
It's a rhythm game, but you also have to roll for your characters. Your characters are anthropomorphized versions of things. And you have to dress them up, and each outfit has specific stats that you have to take into account for each song and each stage you play at.
Holy shit, that's basically... Isn't there that one game for the PSP where it's just you raise a whole bunch of like idol girls?
Idolmaster?
Yeah, Idolmaster.
Kind of. But the anthros here are basically... everything that ever lived and is extinct. So, like, Precambrian life, dinosaurs, single-celled organisms.
This is a ridiculous amount of fucking waifus.
It is. And basically, she becomes obsessed with it. She becomes a whale, and that she spends, like, a shit ton of money on it. Eventually, to the point where she spent 50,000 yen, which... translate roughly into about $500.
That's a ridiculous amount for it, but not the most I've heard, but it's still a large amount.
So she decides she can't do that anymore. So she just grinds the game, and she sets it up so that as soon as her stamina builds up to maximum, her alarm will go off to wake her up so she can play the game until it drains. So she's getting like sleep in like 2-hour intervals. She's gotten so good that it works. She doesn't even look at the screen, and she could play masterfully. And her work performance is going down.
Of course.
It culminates in that she hasn't been to work in a week, and she doesn't realize it. She hasn't eaten anything in several days. She's walking while playing the game because she's just that good. She knows her feet know where the grocery store is. And then here comes our good friend Truxon. And she gets isekai'd into the game, but it's not how you think.
She's one of the waifus, isn't she?
She is not one of the waifus. She is one of the things that the waifus are anthropomorphizing. She is reincarnated as an amoeba girl. But she has to still gather points and roll the gacha to get cards in order to evolve herself like as a spore. And it's extremely Darwinian because she's not the only girl there. Basically, every animal in this is implied to be a girl and implied to have somebody's soul in them. So, as an amoeba, she's sitting there eating algae or whatever, and she's hearing screams. It is very much survival of the fittest. And just weird, bizarre shit. And, I don't want to go too much into it because I think it's worth going into. It is eventually discovered that this entire reality was taken over by gacha games to such an extent that everything became gacha.
Okay.
And the universe set aside this spot, this temporary dimension, in order to understand gacha so that it could fight against it. Because they basically determined that the soul is connected to the 11th dimension, and there's this there's 2 or 3 or 4 pages that just go into the science of reincarnation and the soul and how it would work, and it's like this is like some shit Asimov would write. Like, this is like late Asimov. Like, holy shit, he's going into some serious detail here. And it turns out that it was all set up so the universe could defeat gacha.
Okay.
And after going through for millions of years of evolution, so much so that she lost track of time, she becomes a spacefaring creature and discovers the ultimate gacha, and it sets everyone free.
Oh no.
The third and final story is called Dark Seiyu.
Alright.
Basically, Seiyu now are no longer voice actors because the anime industry has collapsed, but they discovered that there's a substance in the universe called ether, and that Seiyu have an organ in their throats that most people don't have or have it as well developed. That can control the ether, and by doing that, through song and through performance, you can control various things. That's how you get a lot of really powerful singers and performances and speeches. Well, they also found out that if you increase the size of that organ and the control of the ether, you can basically create a perpetual motion machine, which means unlimited energy. You can control gravity and create anti-gravity. Some of them can create antimatter, and some of them can actually focus maser beams out of their fucking throat hole.
Okay, so these are all voice actors, right? Voice actors, singers.
Yeah.
Just using the power of this organ in their throats. That if they increase the power of it, they get magical fucking powers. That's just what happens.
Yeah. So basically, through genetic engineering, they increase the size of this organ, which basically creates a golden age of space flight, because they can create anti-grav fields. A single Seiyu can actually operate a ship itself like it's a fucking guild navigator and fold space. Because the further you get away from Earth, the more ether there is, and ether is not bound by the rules of relativity.
Wow. All right.
But then they find out that the Milky Way exists in a weird pocket of ether.
All right.
And that there really isn't any of it outside the Milky Way. In fact, all the light from all the galaxies that are traveling through the void is so intense and powerful because there's nothing out there. Anything that leaves the Milky Way where all that fucking dust and matter is blocking out all that extra light is instantly just fucking evaporated, incinerated. So 2/3 of the human population still resides in Old Sol. Also, there was like the planets they find are few and far between, and most of them are not habitable.
Yeah, there's a lot of junk out there that you just can't consider living on. I mean,
there was a fucking Seiyu rebellion because the Seiyu after all this shit went down, even though the Seiyu were like super important to space commerce and everything else, they're basically just considered spaceship parts now that live and walk. They have no rights, and they're not allowed to freely mingle. If they're going to marry and have children, it has to be arranged by a company and licensed, and they have to produce at least one child to replace them. And it's like super fucked up. And they've done several things. They tried to breed the ultimate Seiyu called the Legend class, where they had like much more powerful organs, and they eventually rebelled. But they were also some of the most powerful Seiyu. Some of them were exterminated. The rest fled the solar system looking for a new place to live. And the other project, which was called creating Seiyu transistors, where they grow this fucking organ on other animals and then put it together to create biomachines that can do the job of the Seiyu.
Wow. Okay.
And then there's this girl, I believe her name is Akane. She wants to be the ultimate Seiyu. So she starts killing other Seiyu and taking their fucking organs and attaching it to her fucking body so that she can add their power to hers. Things go places, and I think that's enough. I think you should read it.
Well, I honestly don't know what to make. I'm flabbergasted. This turn of events, especially these 3 fucking short stories, which are, as he pointed out, unrelated to each other, yet I'll have that have a similar theme, I'd say, in that
absurdly high concept sci-fi. Like, I kind of want to buy drugs from this author.
Yeah.
But I also kind of don't want to, because he turned a fucking idol story into a fucking Lovecraftian horror.
And a story about a whale, a gotcha whale, getting turned into a gotcha grinder. Oh my goodness! My brain shut off as soon as the part where you were trying to describe the Seiyu transistors part. I'm like,
it goes even further places than that. But I feel if I go into it anymore, nobody will want to read this. And it's like, you need to read this.
Oh, all right. Well,
if anything, because the things I'm describing sound way too unbelievable to be true. They are true.
So what's this book called? The Last and First Idol by
Last and First Idol
by Gengen Kusano.
Yep.
Or Gengen. I don't know how to fucking.
He's apparently won a shit ton of awards for this and baffled a lot of the people that participated or judged the contest, and he still scored really high in them.
I had to clap at the end of the fucking first story, so you know what? He fucking deserves it. Anyway, you can check it on, I think, Bookwalkers, and let me double check on Amazon. Let's see. Yes, you can get it on Amazon for about $9.20 Canadian. So what is that? $4 or $5 in the US?
Beats me. I know I paid like $8 for it at Bookwalker.
Yeah, so about $8. Anyway, that was the end of the DEGARUTA bonus episode. Next episode, I think we're going to be dealing with, what was it?
Metal Mage and Skeleton Knight.
Yes, and then we're going to tell each other stories about books that we've read but the other hasn't, just to see if we like it. All right, check us out. This is your hosts, Michael and Xavier.
Later.